Welcome to Car Talk with Matty J. Another Tuesday night. More car-related topics as per usual, as we do every Tuesday night. In the studio with Callum and James. What's going on, guys?
Nothing much. How you going?
Thank you for having me.
No worries at all. Thanks for coming on. You guys were just on the previous show with...
Yeah, my show. Talked about the Dark Tower. Wasn't great.
Yeah, I heard it was pretty overrated.
It was okay.
Not overrated. It's like the book is like, it's Stephen King, so
Yeah.
people were excited about the book, the adaptation to movie, and yeah, it didn't live up to the whatever hype there was. But
yeah, it's a bit sad when movies don't. It's kind of a letdown, I guess.
I mean, it's kind of like, for a movie to get hyped up, kind of it ends up negatively impacting the movie because it doesn't matter how good it is. But yeah, in this case, it was just a huge letdown because they didn't really put the effort in that they needed.
I mean, sorry to interrupt Matt's show to
That's
talk about
right.
Dark Tower, but I think
just jump in.
Every time Matt asks me a question about movies, I just keep going on and on. I'm like, it's your show, but you asked me the question.
CarTorque featuring James.
Yeah.
featuring Memphis movies.
I feel like it.
Well, it does tie into what we're going to talk about later.
It does.
I do feel like the Dark Tower would have been better if they had just asked Stephen King if he could write the script or at least guide them, because he has such a great concept of story and flow.
I don't think that's necessary. I think they didn't focus on the right things that they should have.
I mean, it's movies, I guess,
but focusing on what we're talking about tonight.
So this is kind of leading into it. I've always wanted to know, because you James are the movie professional and Callum is a massive movie buff as well.
Oh,
no, you are. So, what would be the ultimate car movie? Like, how would you do it? What ingredients would it have to have?
Cars?
Well, actually, no. I mean, who needs cars in a car movie? Please.
Do a car chase movie without cars.
They're on foot.
Like bikes. You know how people do like the handlebars with their hands?
Yeah.
Like people drive like
vroom.
Well, I mean, to make an ultimate car movie, I mean, there's been a few in recent years. I mean, going back a few years, you got Gone in 60 Seconds, which really kind of brought the car movies kind of back because they went away from.
Was that before Fast and Furious?
It was just before Fast and Furious. I think it was 2000 or two.
So about a year before.
About a year before
Fast and Furious.
And then you've got obviously the Fast and
Furious kind of kicked it off. That's when everyone got into Japanese imports and
pretty much
stuff like that.
And then obviously like that for the whole franchise. But then in recent times we've had a lot more with, like, for example, like we talked about a few weeks ago, Baby Driver.
Yeah.
Need for Speed, which isn't a great film as per such, but it's got a lot of good.
It has interesting
parts. And the car racing is great. And
some cool. Yeah, it's well shot. The car racing is well shot.
Yeah.
Drive as well.
Drive's a big one.
Although that's not really focused on the cars, but it does have good driving in it.
Yeah, and I mean, like, even like a lot of action films, like for example, like your John Wicks and that, like like, for example, like
good car chase.
Good car chase. Cars get blown up and beaten up.
A lot of James Bond movies have good car chases.
Yeah, they do.
Casino Royale.
Casino Royale is a great one.
Well, Casino Royale, he just crashes the car, doesn't he?
It's very short, but it's still pretty effective.
Yeah.
So, but like in terms of the ultimate car movie, I mean, we've had bits and pieces that make kind of like, it'd be good here, good there, but I think like the closest one to, I mean, as corny as it sounds, like really, really car-y type of movie is the first Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
I mean,
see, like movie, like when that movie came out, and it was the biggest thing, and everyone was obsessed with it. There weren't really a lot of movies that kind of ripped it off and tried to ride off its success.
Yeah,
there was Torque, that bike movie, but other than that, I don't remember. I mean, I'm sure there was that. They're pretty forgettable, but I feel like that's a movie that they could have ripped off and made a million different times with different types of cars, and each one could have had their own like interesting thing to do. I mean,
there's been other movies as well. If you're going like world movies, like Initial D, and there was the live action version of the anime, which we've spoken about in the show, which we personally love. Like it copped a lot of flack because I wasn't true to the story, but it was. I thought it was a good movie.
It's good, yeah.
Had some of the coolest arcade cabinets, didn't it?
It's a game, yeah.
The game, definitely. Oh yeah, they still do.
Yeah, and you used to be able to get those cards.
Yeah, I still got all my cards back in the day.
Matt was the Initial D king.
Dude, I used to play every week, every Saturday at High Point, and it was just I was like the only white guy there because it was all no offense, but people of Asian descent.
Well, it was an Asian product.
It was, yeah.
So
like in the end, I was like, oh my god, I'm in with like the crowd. They actually gave me like a card that said Asian.
You're honorary.
I was an honorary Asian. That was my Saturday at the arcades when I was in high school. But I mean, they've had that. Like another great movie is Motorway, which we've never spoken about in this show really.
We should probably do a whole episode, maybe a double episode from my show into your show.
That'd
because
be great,
it's a really good like Hong Kong car chase movie that's like really underrated, like really underseen.
It's unheard of from a lot of people.
Yeah,
anyway.
but I mean, it's got really great car chases and good characters and
good storyline.
Yeah, it's like a really good kind of cop. What do you call it? Cops and robbers, but with like car chases.
And it's got great selection of cars in there. Really really cool.
Yeah.
Late 80s, early 90s Jap stuff, which is really popular with tuners today.
Mm.
You know, as far as my favorite car movie, like if I could create the perfect car movie, I'm not really into like the action car chases. I like things like Top Gear, like that kind of celebration of cars, just as much as it is the destruction.
Now, I was gonna say that was one of my points, but that's a great idea. Like the way they do like their long specials. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like that kind of
like
celebration
touring
of
cars, like a movie about touring cars or a movie about racing,
like even like a road trip movie.
Yeah,
but like with Top Gear elements, you know, like I think
that would be cool
because it allows character development.
100%.
I've always,
as well as I said, that celebration because the car movies like Baby Driver was excellent, but I see cars getting shot up. I'm like, you know, like what's the point?
Yeah,
it's just much funner to see people having fun in cars from my perspective.
I've always wanted to make a Dakar movie.
Yeah,
like a kind of like survival movie because that's like that's like the toughest race in the world.
Dakar is the toughest race in the world,
and like I've seen so many documentaries and there's a great like TV show about it as well and but I'd like to make like a dramatization, like a fictional dramatization of like what it would be like to be in that race, like getting stuck in the desert, you know, having to fight the elements and constantly repair your car. And I think it'd be a really cool like movie to do.
Just on that, like with the Dakar, it is the most brutal race you can think of. Just imagine being part of the. But like, even if it was like two of the drivers just had a camera there the whole time filming themselves.
Yeah, it's the most manliest thing I've ever heard.
I'm serious. Yeah. Just like capturing, the struggles and the ups and downs. It'd be brilliant.
But like I said, I've seen documentaries of it. And that's one thing, but I would like to make a really slick Hollywood-looking, like car movie about Dakar. Like
that'd be cool.
Like a race movie, like Rush or whatever.
Dude, you said Rush was really good, didn't you?
You haven't seen it.
I still haven't seen it yet.
It's really good.
Yeah, I should get on that. I know the story about. I know who it's about.
Yeah, the guy. I can't remember the guy's name. The guy who plays Niki Lauda. I think it's Daniel Braun. He's a German actor.
Yeah.
He's really good.
Yeah.
And I think it might be Chris Hemsworth's best role because he plays James Hunt. But yeah, it's a good sports rivalry car race movie.
And you said it's done really well.
Yeah, I mean there's some crappy CGI, but other than that, everything's really well shot and the racing is well done. So yeah, you should definitely watch it. We can talk about it in the show.
We can definitely talk about that. We'll continue this right after this. We're going to go to our first break of the night. And I'm going to go to a song recommended by one of our listeners, Dave from the US. This song is by FM84. He actually met one of the band members who drives a DeLorean for this song, which is super cool. They do 80s 80s synths and stuff, synthwave. So this is called Running in the Night featuring Ollie. I can't even say his last name, but yeah, we'll be right back after this. You're back on CarTorque with Matty J. Still in the studio with James and Nathan. It's Callum. Yes, I was going to say your brother.
The twins. They're imposters.
I am representing myself and Nathan.
Yeah, he's one of the same. So just before the break, we're talking about some good car movies, and you were just mentioning Rush. I was going to say Senna as well.
Yeah,
which is
that's a documentary.
Documentary.
That's a really good documentary.
So yeah, that's definitely worth a watch. But if we were to make our own ultimate car movie for James, so you were mentioning previously, it'd have to be like a Dakar type.
Well, I mean, that's one thing I would really
Dakar?
like because, but that's a race movie and not really a car chase movie. If I was to make a car chase movie, I'd do it obviously something else.
Yeah.
I mean, I could sit here all night and give you all my like ideas for car chase movies.
But then they'll be all taken on the net.
Yeah, copyright. Patent pending. Can you patent pending?
I don't know.
Copyright 2017.
I'll write it on the podcast.
Yeah.
Patent pending.
But yeah, I mean, do you just want me to start with an idea and we can talk about it, or do you want to do your idea and then I'll
just like to create like, for example, like a good car movie. Like, I mean, it'd have to have a story around cars.
Yeah.
Like, but like, I mean, it's got to be like a hero car.
Yeah.
And there'd have to be like, some sort of, vibe with that car, so it gets the people on board. It's kind of like with the first Fast and Furious, with the Supra in the first Fast and Furious. I mean, a lot of people.
It becomes a character in its own.
It is. It's like resurrected from the death, and
the Impala 67.
Yeah,
that's Callum's favorite car.
We're gonna
apart from the new Tesla.
We're gonna have to put those cars in our movie, James.
Yeah.
But yeah, so. It'd have to have a car that's like kind of like the Halo car.
But it also have to be something that hasn't been seen in every other movie.
Exactly right.
So I mean, there's a kind of problem there. You have to pick a new kind of interesting car that hasn't been seen, or that hasn't been featured as much. Done
over the top. I mean, Supra's been done a bazillion times. Well, not really, but it's essentially the Fast and Furious is the Supra movie.
Yeah.
And Too Fast and Furious was the Skyline movie. But it'd be something for me. It'd be something a bit understated but cool. Like people would be like, "Oh, I didn't really think about those," but they're like super cool.
Yeah.
So,
it depends on like with all movies, story and character should come first.
Yes.
So if you don't care about the story and the characters, then all the car chases can be excellent, but you couldn't care less.
And that's why we're in here. I mean, like it'd have to have tons of character development and a good story.
So we've talked about before how like John Wick is a character who you can't really see driving a Supra, but you can see him driving a Mustang or a muscle car. So it depends like on the world and the characters. Like, would this be a bullet style classic car chase, or would this be imports? Or I guess it just depends.
It'd depend on the actor playing the role.
Exactly. Yeah.
The car should reflect the actor and the character.
I remember seeing a documentary. So not documentary, the
behind the
scenes, I should say.
Yeah.
In the second Fast and Furious, Too Fast and Furious, and Tyrese first got shown his Eclipse.
Oh yeah, I heard about this.
And he's like, "No."
Yeah.
First he's like, "It's not me."
That's not what Roman would drive.
Yeah. So he actually made them change like the interior, the paint job, everything.
That kind of speckle. What do you call it? The glitter. What do you call that paint job?
It was like a flaky paint job.
Flaky purple paint job.
It was originally that color with like a spider web over it, and it was like terrible. And it was like a fluoro yellow interior. He's like, it looks like, and I quote, "It looked like someone killed Big Bird." Like just put him in there. He's like, it was terrible. But then like that car with like the chromies in the end was super like early 2000s rise up, but it was super Roman Pierce.
Yeah, you can definitely see him driving that and thinking it's cool.
It was cool back then. But then you also see him drive a muscle car later on, the Challenger, which is like super, like 10 times more Roman Pierce, which is,
Technically he wins that off someone else, so it's kind of makes more sense that he, originally he didn't. Although when he's doing a smash derby at the start, and he's driving an old Chevy or something.
I think it was Monte Carlo, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, his character's kind of a mismatch of different things. So then that's another good point, is your character can evolve through cars.
Development, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what we see in like, for example, in the Fast and Furious with Brian, he starts off in an Eclipse.
Yeah.
Hashtag the Eclipse yesterday. Sorry, I just had to say that.
It's just a car in the sky.
Dude, there was a meme with that. Did you see it?
Yeah.
The Eclipse going. But then he started with that. Then he went to obviously Supra. Then he went to Skyline. Oh, so he went to in the prelude. I think it was GTO. No, it was a Dodge Stealth. I think it was. And then but like he evolved.
Yeah.
And then from Skyline he went to 35 Skyline. Yeah. So
I mean,
35 GT Skyline. All the fanboys are going to kill me right now.
Brian's sort of like, I think he's driven a Skyline most of the time, or a GTR most of the time. So that's kind of his main sort of what people maybe know him best for. But then, yeah, he's got the Supra in the first movie and the Supra in the last movie, unfortunately. And he's got the Subarus as well. But they're all Brian. I think we've talked about. Cars, I think we talked about this on the Fast and Furious episode, where they're all Brian cars. Yeah. Like blue is his main color, and he usually drives Japanese imports. And when in the eighth movie, when that agent guy was driving a blue
BRZ,
we were like, that's a Brian car. They're trying to make him the Brian character. So like. Yeah, cars and characters kind of come together, especially in these types of movies.
And I think that's why, like, for example, the Fast and Furious has kind of worked so well with their characters with their cars.
Yeah.
I mean, Toretto's Charger, like, muscle car.
Yeah.
He's a big dude. And The Rock's got, like, the big bloody, whatever the hell that is, tank thing. But it kind of works for them. And I think the most important part of a car movie is the car has to reflect the driver.
Yeah.
And, but obviously, like with the storyline, but like that connection has to be there. Otherwise, it won't be felt like it's important.
Yeah.
And I think for a movie to feel real, it has to have real aspects. And if a person like he or she doesn't love their car, or it doesn't really show on screen, you're not going to get the vibe from it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes like some movies great. Like for example, in like even in the manga for
Initial D
and the anime. Like Takumi really feels at one with his 8.6, and like when he blows it up, he starts crying because it's
you feel a loss of a character basically.
It was like a death. Honestly,
you get to know a car.
Yeah.
So it's like the same. When the DeLorean gets smashed at the end of the last movie.
Dude, I was so upset.
Yeah. Or like when the Interceptor gets trashed in the second Mad Max, that's just devastating.
Yeah. That's the last of the V8s. Yeah. But yeah, but when you think back on these movies, right, there's like the one part that gets me every time. You think of the cars in that movie.
Yeah.
For example, Mad Max, you think of the Interceptor.
Yeah.
Fast and Furious, you think of the Supra. Or you think of the Charger.
Yeah, Bullet Mustang.
I
mean, they call it a Bullet Mustang, and it's that's not the name.
That's what's like. Even the Gone in 60 Seconds, they call it Eleanor.
Yeah.
It's
both Gone in 60 Seconds.
Yeah, in both of them. That's right. I do like the first one. The first one's
the original's better. Yeah.
Yeah. But that has to have that. A car movie has to have that connection.
Yeah.
If it doesn't have that, it's a movie's going to really struggle.
But then, like, something like Drive, or even Baby Driver, like, the characters aren't necessarily connected to the cars, but that's their tool that they're most comfortable with. So it's like they can jump into any regular car and become the master of that vehicle.
Yeah.
So they're not necessarily connected to that, and we're not really connected to the car as a character. But we understand how they utilize the vehicle to do what they have to do.
And I think that's a great point because, like, for example, in Drive and Baby Driver, like they use multiple cars.
Yeah.
And like they use some really cool cars in there as well. But like because they're constantly changing cars, you don't feel that connection. But I guess the connection of he loves cars or she loves cars. It really resonates with you, and you can remember. You can remember that. Okay, he drove the WRX, and he did this, he did that.
Yeah.
So while the connection might not be as strong with like the one particular car, you can still relate to it as being a car-esque, kind of movie.
And that's also because they're getaway drivers, and getaway drivers have to use disposable cars basically. Yeah. So
would you consider Gran Torino a car film?
In a weird aspect, because like. It's based around the car.
Yeah, I mean, it's called Gran Torino. And the Gran Torino is like the centerpiece for all the story and characters. It's not really what the movie's about, but that's the main thing that gets all the characters. I mean, it's the inciting incident. It's the MacGuffin
that brings everything together.
Yeah,
and that's a great movie, by the way. But I mean, like when I think of that movie, I think of the Gran Torino. Like it's just what happens.
I think of Get Off My Lawn
with a gun. Was he got a shotgun or something?
He's got like a World War II rifle.
So good. But yeah, I mean, it's those kind of aspects that make a car movie a car movie. I mean, for example, in more recent times with Motorway, the Chinese film we'll talk about before. The baddies drive this old 180 SX, like S13 bucket, but it's like part of it for a lot of the movie, and
also like how the main character is like astonished at this thing, how it moves, and it ends up being his obsession to kind of take down the bad guys by using the same driving techniques, which is really cool because it's like they mythologize the villain's like car, and they're like, oh, it's this.
It's this entity.
Yeah, it's like how did he get away from the cops? And then the cop who's chasing him has to figure out, what's the best, how can I replicate that so I can catch him? It's like a good cops and robbers kind of deal.
We'd really recommend it. If you guys haven't seen it, watch Motorway.
Yeah,
we probably couldn't endorse it enough. It's a great film.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I was so you'd love to do a Dakar kind of like,
Yeah, well, like I said, I got a million ideas. So if you want to start with your idea and then I do my idea, but otherwise I could just go on and talk about.
I mean,
what would you do?
Well, I really wanted to talk about like the elements to making a good film, like for example, with like a car based
within the
car based genre, and like it's been done. There's tons of ways to do it, and I know you as a a qualified film dude. That was a terrible thing.
Movie buff.
Well, you're like a director though, aren't you? You're like a qualified.
I mean, I have directed a short film, but that doesn't really count.
You went to film dude school.
Yeah, thank
you very much.
Yeah, I got a film dude diploma.
All right, I'm gonna shut up now. But yeah, like, I mean, all good movies really have like basic elements of like good character development.
Yeah, I mean, well, like with every movie, you have to have good story, good characters. And then, like we mentioned, it has to have, cool cars. But then in terms of like the technical aspect, like how you shoot the car chases, I always complain on my show how a lot of movies have really rapid fire, quick cut editing. So you're switching between angles so much that you can't really get a sense of where you are. And the shaky cam and the camera's moving up and down and cutting angles, and you don't really get what's going on. So, like, when it comes to car chases, like, stuff like the Bullet car chase or, Drive, where it's very, very smooth and you really get a sense of where things are. It's important, how you shoot it so that you get a sense. And also you have to get a sense of rapid movement and speed because, obviously, it's a car chase. Yeah. Things always have to be moving. But at the same time, you don't want things to be so fast that you don't know where you are, what's going on.
Yep.
There's that.
I mean, to be honest, what makes the original Bullet chase so good? Like Bullet as a movie isn't a top movie, but the chase is brilliant.
Yeah.
What makes it so good is that it's just there's no noise. It's just engine noise, tire squeal.
Yeah. No music.
No music. Sorry, it's all legit. Just back to basics, just recording, and it makes you feel like you're there.
Sorry.
Yeah, go.
This is a bit different, but there's a scene in Dunkirk where it's just a plane with the engine died, and you just see it gliding across the screen.
Yeah,
I think that's in general that's a good example of movement that could work with cars.
Yeah,
just that kind of. It's just a scene. There's no music that I can remember. There's not a lot going on. It's just you just see the plane in all of its beautiful detail moving across the screen, and I think that's like that really simple. It just looked great.
Yeah,
I don't have the education to say why it looked great. It looked excellent.
Like music is a very important part of film and emotion and how you react to a film.
But there's a time and place for it.
But also it's just stripping it back and letting things play out without the music.
Very raw.
It can add tension as well. And you focus more on the images. It just depends on the scene and how you go about it.
I mean, that's a good point. Like, for example, in the first John Wick, when he meets the people at he meets the Russian banditti in at the petrol station.
Yeah.
There's no music. There's no nothing. You just see him just filling up his tank, and then you hear like music from the bad people's car come in, and because it's just like there's like no music, no nothing. It's just you're in the zone. It's
something's going to go bad.
Something's going to go bad, and you can really focus on what they were saying and all the different things that were happening. So that really made that scene very, very powerful in the movie, because it was a scene that really kind of led to everything that happened. Yeah. But it really allowed for a focus on that one piece.
Definitely, yeah.
On that one scene. So yeah, I reckon that like also like long shots, like for example, like in the second one when like he's like sideways out of the garage. So good.
Just like stunts in general, like jumping and crashing, and it's like especially like practical stunts.
Practical stunts are a big one. Yeah, that's a big aspect of any like movie, but especially car movies, because they make them feel so much more real.
Exactly, yeah. And that that's an important part of any car chase or any car movie, is like getting that feel that's a real thing, real person driving, real car driving, or crashing or exploding or whatever. Yeah. So you have to get that right, definitely.
I mean, I think that's why kind of like the Dukes of Hazzard, the original series, was so popular, is because they actually jumped these cars.
Like every episode, they just jump the car, and it's just
they
like
trash so many of them.
Yeah, like it's ridiculous.
Actors? The actual
it'd be stunt drivers.
They killed so many of those cars. But
didn't you say that they're hard to get now because they crash so many?
So many, dude. There was like a hold up for supply for the people, because the movie kept like just taking them. They just kept getting given to the show, because they just lining them up, painting them orange, and jumping them,
smashing. Yeah, because like in movies when they land, in real life that car is totaled. Like the chassis, like the wheels are gone.
Yeah,
the tires like, and then they cut to another angle, and then it's a new car that looks exactly the same that drives off. So like, there's so much that goes into stunt driving and crashing and stuff like that.
I wonder how underwhelming a realistic car movie would be. Like ones where they can't make jumps and they can't drive too fast, or they'll get pulled over by the police. Like, you know what I mean? Like an actual real life car movie.
Oh, there's this bit. There's a movie called Way of the Gun, which is a movie I really like. That's kind of like underrated, underseen. It's not a car chase movie, but there is a scene where these like private security dudes in suits are chasing these two like criminals, and it's like, it's really intense. It's not a car chase in your traditional sense where they're screeching around corners. It's just like more like following. Like, we have to get these guys. They're not like in super duper cars. They're interested in like normal sedans. But what happens is the bad guys kind of pull into an alleyway, and they open their doors, and they're like, you think they're going to jump out. So the security dudes are following behind them, and they have to like open their doors, take their seatbelts off, and they put their foot out, but they're still driving, because they have to be ready for, if the guys in front of them jump out, they have to be ready to ditch their car and jump out. So it's this really tense scene where they're just slowly following the bad guys, and the door open with their foot out, like almost touching the ground. And they're ready to jump out if the bad guys do. It's really cool. Like, that's something that's really effective and that's different. Yeah. So you don't have to have like crazy stunts or screeching around corners. You just have to use cars in interesting ways. And I mean, that goes for all action scenes. Just having guys punch each other is boring. It's like, so you have to do something a bit different.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, but I remember, you're gonna laugh. This is the funniest bit. Top Gear, they were it was Richard Hammond and Jeremy Clarkson were on the film. I forgot the name of the film, but it was with Plan B, and I forgot the other guy. It was like a car chase. We had the new Focus.
Oh yeah, I think I remember. Yeah,
it was like a black Focus and a red Jag.
And I think it was the Sweeney movie.
Sweeney, that's it.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen it, but
it was okay.
He's like, they're like, okay, because they were like made to do the car chase. And he was like, okay, we got to make it because Cargo's realistic. So he's like, he was telling one of the actors in the baddie in the Jag to he's like, well, we got to turn off the traction control. We have to hold it for 10 seconds. So like they filmed him holding it for 10 seconds to take traction control and turn off. I was like, oh my god. I mean, there's reality and there's that.
I mean, that's the thing with all movies is like, if everything was realistic, you'd have a really long, boring movie. So of course they have to take liberties with things, because otherwise you just be
Bad guys having to stop for petrol.
Yeah, that's it was funny though. Like one of the bits they totaled one of the Jags. So they're like, oh, we're gonna like tail whip into this building, and the building's gonna catch on fire and blow up. So they tail whipped into the building, but it was the wrong building. The building they still blew up instead. That wasn't even it. So it was
making a movie about stunt drivers would be cool.
That'd be a cool
there's a movie called Stuntman.
Isn't there a Hot Rod as well? With is it Andy Samberg?
No, that's about like a Evel Knievel type stunt.
Okay,
I'm talking about like movie stunts, like a guy who does stunt driving for a movie.
That'd be a cool idea.
But Hot Rod's like hilarious.
Hot Rod's funny. Yeah.
Silly comedy
So
about a guy who wants to jump like a motorbike over a ramp, but
he's essentially killing himself every time he does it.
That was so good.
So good.
But yeah, like it would be cool to make a movie about stunt driving, like on movies, like something like that.
Yeah, I kind of like that idea. I also like Callum's idea of like a long travel movie or thing where like a person falls in love with their car, or they have a story that breaks down. You see them fixing it.
It's like what you said. I mean, it could be something like Facing the Elements. A bad guy doesn't necessarily have to be a person.
Yeah,
it could be a car journey, but then maybe they get caught in a sandstorm. Or any number of things that could happen that they have to assist their car to survive.
Yeah.
Because, cars are pretty vulnerable things.
They are, yeah.
I talked about this movie on my show. It's called Two Lane Blacktop, one of my favourite movies. It's very hard to recommend to people because it's very hard to get into. Like, there's not a lot of dialogue. There's no real story. But it's about these two guys who have, like, a hot rod. And all they do is like they drive around LA and they street race people, and that's pretty much it. There's no real like bad guy or overarching plot. It's just them driving around at night.
It's a really cool concept. Yeah.
Yeah. So like that's hard to recommend, especially if you're not a big film buff. But that's something almost like Callum's saying, but a bit different, where it's just basically them in the car, and there's nothing else.
I kind of like that because that builds like the car becomes like a bigger character in that aspect, because like it's part
and like pretty much there's hardly any dialogue, but when there is dialogue, it's usually just like the shocks are stuffed. What are we gonna do? All right, well, pull in, we'll work on them, and like that's it. Like there's no like everything is about. It's not the movie's not about the car, but it's like that's really the only connection these characters have. Yeah. Like, because there's no real dialogue otherwise. It's a very hard film to get into, I'd say, especially for someone coming in from the outside.
Yeah.
It's not an action film by any means. So,
well, a good car movie doesn't have to be an action film. It can be something like that, or it can have just a whole bunch of different concepts. Look, we're going to go to our next break of the night. We're going to go to a song by Aussie artist Touch Sensitive. I don't know if you guys have ever heard it. Yeah.
Pizza Boy?
Pizza Boy, yeah.
Is that it? Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's a good song, that one. The song's called Lay Down. This is his latest track. So this was Touch Sensitive with Lay Down. Back on CarTorque with Matty J. That was Touch Sensitive with Lay Down. Now, we've like mentioned what we think are a great car movie. Like, what would make a great car movie? And I think
what makes good movies in general, really. Yeah. It's like the same as any movie makes a good car movie makes any good movie.
Yeah. And we've kind of set our ideas of like what we'd like to see, like with obviously.
Well, I mean, I've got a million ideas, so I'll just like rapid fire a few. I like to do a movie like Mad Max 2 is like one of my all-time favorite movies, and I still think it might be the best car chase movie, even though there's stuff like The Driver that I think are probably the best car chase movies. But Mad Max 2 for me is like the one, and the truck chase at the end is so incredible on every level. And I've always wanted to do a movie that's basically the truck chase, but for the whole kind of movie.
That'd be cool.
And I know Mad Max Fury Road was kind of that, but I'm talking about like multiple trucks, and like that's what the movie's about.
And
is like
the cars will be black Civics with green neons.
No. I wanted to do like it doesn't have to. It doesn't necessarily have to be like dystopian, but I want it to be like on desert roads,
that'd be cool.
And like it's about cargo trucks. I like the movie Convoy, with Chris Christopherson. Like I'm that kind of old school. Like I like all those old 70s movies. So like I want it to be like that kind of old school 70s, like Smokey and the Bandit kind of thing. But like more serious and more like Mad Max, where it's like just really intense, like truck action. And like I don't really have any affinity for trucks, but I really love that scene. So like I'd love a movie about truck drivers and like, you know, freight trucks, like racing or whatever the movie would be about. So that would be cool to do that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. What about you?
I'm a simple guy. I think Speed with Keanu Reeves. That's not a car, but it's like a bus. But
it's I guess it's very it is very intense in a way.
Baby Driver. Yeah. That's probably my favorite car movie because it's one of the only car movies I've seen, and I like it a lot.
Yeah,
I mean, favorite car movie is easy. You know, Mad Max 2, The Driver, Drive, Vanishing Point. So many. I mean, there's so many.
Yeah.
What about you, Matt?
For me, it's hard to say. Like, I really like the first.
Fast and Furious.
No, well, yeah, the first Fast and Furious. I mean, like everyone kind of likes that movie, but I also really like the first Gone in 60 Seconds, which no one really talks about.
The original one,
because like like the storylines.
That movie's like 40-minute car chase. It's amazing.
It's legit. It's like half the movie's a car chase. It's
like all the things we've been talking about tonight. Like that's a movie that kind of lacks in the story and characters, but the car chase is so incredible that
it's brilliant. Actually,
insane.
It's so good. It's like it's the climax of the movie that just keeps going. That doesn't end.
And so many cars get totaled. Like the guy who made the movie, like he funded it all himself. He bought all those cars. He did all the stunt driving. It's just so incredible.
Yeah, it's good. I like it because it's that.
Yeah, it's like you said before, raw. Like just everything. It's just laid out.
Yeah.
There's no like Hollywood fake looking. It's like all just cars smashing and. Blues Brothers, I forgot about
Blues Brothers. Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah.
Oh man, so good.
Blues Brothers.
Cup Sharks, Cup Break.
So good. I don't know. It'd be one of those, or it'd be like I really do like Motorway. Like I'm such a big fan of that movie. Even though it's like not based around one car, it's based, but it's it's a really good car based film. Oh jeez, I do like Love the Beast by Eric Bana.
I've never seen.
I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. It's actually it's just him talking about his car.
I can see how that would be good.
It's really good, and it's surprisingly good. Like it's basically him getting his car ready for the Target Tasmania Rally, and it's like it's just basically just him and his mates working on the car, talking about their car stories. And
sorry, go on.
Yeah, go.
There's do documentaries count?
Yeah,
it's
well, that's what Matt was talking about.
This is a bit different. Louis Theroux has a documentary in his Weird Weekends series, Demolition Derbies.
Oh, I've seen that one.
That's actually fantastic.
It's great.
That's my favorite, hands down. Just how raw it is, how human it is.
Yeah.
Because all the people like having fun, smashing their own cars. I think it's very realistic about the way it's handled.
Yeah.
Like it's not in Hollywood, there's explosions and
stuff blowing up.
This is just people smashing cars because they're bored on the weekend.
Yeah, and it's something to do.
And it's Louis, an excellent documentary filmmaker, so that's a good one.
We forgot about Italian Job.
Italian Job, yeah. Gee, that's a great one.
French Connection has a great car chase. Seven Ups has a great car chase. Ronin has a great car chase. So many good. Like we're forgetting so many, but there's so many.
There's heaps out there, and if we've missed any, just give it to us on our Facebook page and under this link. But yeah, no, I mean, there's those ones.
For Your Eyes Only, I always like to highlight because I really like that car chase.
Yeah,
but James Bond in general.
James Bond's always had kind of good little car things here and there. It's James Bond.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. Like, if I had to pick one, I couldn't do it.
You'd have to pick Fast and Furious, but that's just kind of like if you had to.
If I had to, probably the first one, but it's hard. It's hard. So, but yeah, definitely Motorway would be up there. Eric Bana, Love the Beast. So if you haven't seen that, it's really really good. Yeah, just stuff like that. Stuff in general, like general about cars. With a different take on it, it's pretty cool. I mean, like for example, Baby Driver was I really liked because it was so different.
You know what they should make? They should make a Brum movie, like big budget Brum, like
Brum with a 2JZ. Dude, there was
They could do that. Like Brum gets totaled, and then they have to rebuild him, and they put all in this like fancy.
On Facebook there was a guy, you know, the opening of Brum when he's like he's in the wheel of the cars and he gets started, and there was that one, and it's like the start of a 2JZ, and it's just like him driving, and you just hear 2JZ noise, like dosing and everything. It's so good, so good. Well, look, we're out of time tonight. Thanks, guys, for coming in.
No worries.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. You're more than welcome on any week. CarTorque with Manny J. Our Facebook page is CarTorque with Manny J. It's TORQUE. Like and share our Facebook page. We've got all our previous episodes and podcasts on our Facebook page. So if you go from there, you can get onto our Shout Engine page, which houses all our podcasts, and we're also on iTunes as well. So subscribe, rate, and review our iTunes page, so we can get higher up in the rankings, get more views, get the show more noticed. We'll be on the same time next week, 7 p.m. James, give your show a quick plug.
Man vs. Movies, 6 p.m. every Tuesday night. You can like and share the Man vs. Movies Facebook page, and we're also on iTunes.
Cool. So his links always coming up on my Facebook page, so it's always good to look at. But yeah, that's pretty much the show tonight, guys. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks to all our listeners at home and all around. I will see you guys same time next week. Take it easy.
This is professional radio, gentlemen.
And it's front-wheel drive.
Scotty, have you got anyone you want to thank?
Just myself.
And now we do the after hours. Dun, dun, dun.
Gentlemen, what would you go for?
Dacia Sandero.
Okay, and because it's not a supercar.
But it is.
It's not.
Automotive perfection comes in the form of two letters, A and U.
Long live my LTD.